Okay, so I did promise you would be hearing a lot of me read in the coming weeks because obviously we have to read our chapters of Skunk and Badger together. So your only task in guided read today is just to listen. We're going to do chapter 2 of Skunk and Badger. This is my real life reading nook. This is where I kind of get cozy with all my books and my cushions and things. So yeah, so I'm just going to read chapter 2 of Skunk and Badger to you. Chapter 2. Consider yourself my special guest. Badger plucked the red suitcase from Skunk's grasp with one paw and took firm hold of Skunk's elbow with the other. He steered Skunk away from the front door. Here we are. Badger stopped at the end of the hallway. With a dramatic sweep, he gestured at the folding door. He set down the suitcase, pulled open the door and tugged a chain. The bulb flickered on. Ta-da! My special guest closet. There's even a place for belongings. Badger patted the shelf above. Skunk squinted into the closet, taking in the luggage rack bed with t-shirt bedding and a bald athletic sock pillow. The bulb hummed fluorescently. Oh, said Skunk finally. He paused and pointed towards the stairs. Aren't there rooms up there on the second floor? Aunt Lulu told me. Never, Badger interrupted. He leapt into the centre of the hallway. I wouldn't want to do that to you. You are my special guest. You deserve to stay in the special guest closet. Skunk leaned up to see the stairs. He looked up at Badger. He glanced into the closet and then at his suitcase. Finally, he shrugged. Okay. Good, said Badger. Skunk brushed off his paws. That is settled. Now please tell me where the neighbourhood chickens congregate. I would like to make their acquaintance. Skunk paused and then added, I will need that key to the brownstone. Chickens have no sense of time. I have known some very late chickens. I would not want to wake you by coming in late. Chickens? There aren't chickens in this neighbourhood. As he said this, Badger remembered the chicken he had seen from the stoop. Ha, laughed Skunk. You are funny. Even I know there are lots of chickens in this neighbourhood. I have seen 3 Orpingtons and 1 Leghorn, and I just got here. Skunk picked up his red suitcase and plunked it on top of the luggage rack bed. The bed toppled and the light went out. Unpack! Get comfortable, I'll find the spare key. Badger called over his shoulder as he sprinted up the stairs. It did not take Badger long to find the spare key. He poured the key over to Skunk, then raced back upstairs to his bedroom. Mail pail, now. In his mail pail, Badger found 4 letters. 4 letters from Aunt Lulu. The first letter was all this, that and other thing. Badger tossed it in the trash bin. The second letter blithered and blathered in the way through most of a page, and then the word appeared. Skunk. Badger gulped, backed up and read the sentence he'd skated by. Aunt Lulu had met Skunk. She had been such good friends with Skunk's mother. Badger tore into the 3rd envelope, shook out the paper and read. The entire 3rd letter, all 5 slogging pages of it, prattled on about Skunk and Skunk's mother. It ended, What would you think of Skunk moving into the brownstone? I am sure you will like him. Please respond as soon as possible. A muttering began. Did not respond. Certainly did not respond. What have I done? Badger was so distressed he tore the 4th letter in half. After taping the 2 halves back together, he read, Dear Badger, I am sending Skunk to the brownstone. Please welcome him. He is a delight. As I did for you, I've given Skunk permission to stay in the brownstone for as long as he'd like. Give him a big room on the 2nd floor and keys to come and go. He'll be a wonderful roommate. Hope this arrangement doesn't come as a shock. In a previous letter, I asked for your thoughts, but I have heard nothing. I would wait for a reply, but Skunk's living situation is precarious, so I will take your lack of response as agreement. I expect you're busy with important rock work. It makes me smile to think of you and Skunk together. I look forward to news of your adventures. Hugs, Aunt Lulu. Roommate? Room on the 2nd floor? Stay as long as he likes. Badger groaned and flopped belly first onto his bed. He flipped over, stared at the ceiling and thought, as she did for me. He clenched and unclenched the bedding in his paw. He turned his head, taking his rock scientist diploma and his 3 blue ribbons hanging on the wall. Badger had been a rock scientist in need of funding. He did important rock work. What did this Skunk bring to the brownstone? A chicken whistle? Whatever that was, Badger wasn't falling for it. Also, Badger's suitcase latched on its own. It did not require twine. Not everyone wants a skunk, Skunk had said. Got that right. Badger spent the evening in his bedroom. When bedtime came, he tossed and turned and stared vaguely at the ceiling. There's only one thing to do, he thought finally. Badger rolled off the bed, crawled to the closet, pulled out the case and unlatched it. Ukulele, he whispered as he tucked its co-wad body under his elbow. He took a deep breath and plucked. Ping! Sounded the ukulele. Badger sighed. He plucked another string. Ping! He sighed again. He ran a claw over all 4 strings. Bleedy-leedy-bling! The sound rang out. Hastily, Badger clapped a paw over the ukulele's soundhole. Shh, he whispered. Still, he plucked the bottom string one more time. Pling! Gently, Badger set the ukulele back in its case, latched the latches, click, 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 and slid the case back into his closet. The pling stayed with him as he climbed into bed. Wrapped in the ring of the note, Badger slept. The next morning, Badger awoke to smells. Eggs, onions and cinnamon, Badger mumbled. A dream, thought Badger. In this kitchen, one thing and one thing only awaited him. Cold cereal in a cold bowl with cold milk. Again. He turned over in his bed, took a deep breath and smelled. Definitely cinnamon. Then he remembered. That fellow, that skunk. Badger's eyes popped open. He smelled something else. Burning. He sniffed again. Burning! Coughing, Badger leapt from his bed. Fire! Fire! Badger yelled as he raced down the stairs. Skunk rang out of the kitchen. He held a pepper clamped in tongs over the head. Fire? Where? Skunk skittered right and looked. Skunk skidded left. The pepper at the end of Skunk's tongs trailed a long, thin line of smoke. Skunk followed Badger's gaze. He jabbed in the air with his pepper. This is not fire. This is fire roasted. It is breakfast. Breakfast, said Badger, as Skunk and the pepper disappeared into the kitchen. Badger stood, stunned at the bottom of the stairs. Breakfast for me too? He listened to the sounds coming from the kitchen. The vent hood whooshed on. Should have turned that on sooner, he heard Skunk say. Pans and pots clanked. Something hit something else and sizzled. Something was shaken. The faucet turned on and off. Skunk whistled a tune. The air around Badger was thick with smells, savoury and sweet, buttery, toasty and grilled. If he were a civet, he'd have wanted to roll in the smells while yelling, "Rejoice, rejoice!" But being a badger, he tip-clawed into the kitchen for a wary peek. From the doorway, Badger stared. The kitchen looked cosy, welcoming even. Candlelight flickered on the kitchen table. 2 places were set with placemats, cloth napkins in napkin rings, a fork and a knife. Nothing matched. One napkin was purple and dotted, the other a tartan plaid, and the half-finished candle had been stuck in a bulbous bottle covered with wax drippings. But Badger found it delightful. Skunk whirred to the stove, the counter, back to the stove, the sink, the kitchen table, and returned to the stove. He spotted Badger in the doorway. Come in, come in, come in. Skunk jabbed a spatula in the direction of a chair. Sit, breakfast soon. Then Skunk scraped furiously at something in a fry pan. Badger sat. The scraping stopped and Skunk marched over to Badger. He put his paws on his hip and said, I'm not a baby cow. You are not a baby cow. I will not insult your palate with baby cow food. Have you ever met a baby cow? Slugs are better conversationalists. But never fear, you will like your breakfast, hot chocolate fine, without baby cow's milk. Breakfast hot chocolate? Badger did not think he would have trouble drinking breakfast hot chocolate. He was about to say this, but Skunk was already across the room at the kitchen counter. He tossed something in the bowl with a big spoon. Skunk picked up the bowl, gave it a shake, and a small potato shot across the room. Rocket potato, watch out, yelled Skunk. Badger laughed. Laughed Skunk. Their eyes met and they grinned at one another. Then Skunk nodded seriously. I will get rocket potato later. The bowl clunked back onto the counter and Skunk continued to cook. A few minutes later, Skunk laid a plate of scrambled eggs with fire-roasted peppers in front of Badger. Badger knew what to do next. He forked it up and put it in his mouth. Ooh, Skunk shook out the napkin. Tuck this under your chin. Badger tucked the napkin under his chin and forked up more eggs. Therefore followed the promised breakfast, hot chocolate, yes, and a basket of strawberry cinnamon muffins. A whole basket. After everything else came roasted fingerling potatoes. Skunk apologised for the potatoes coming last. I get the eating order wrong sometimes, but with breakfast I do not mind terribly. Skunk sat down with his own plate of potatoes. Breakfast is the nicest meal, he said. Badger nodded vigorously. Skunk continued, because breakfast is the nicest meal, you should have candlelight at breakfast, if at all possible. Sometimes it is not possible. Sometimes you are eating where there is not a candle, or sometimes there is a candle shortage and no one has candles. That is sad, particularly for breakfast. And then you can see, there they are, eating breakfast together. Yes, said Badger, hiding his mouthful with a paw. Skunk clapped his paws. I knew it. We are so much alike. We will be good roommates. Then, with Skunk at one end of the table and Badger at the other, they turned to their plates and ate. Badger was into his 4th muffin, or 5th muffin, or 6th, when he realised that things had gone silent. Also, the candle had snuffed out. Badger looked up from his plate. Skunk was not at his spot in the kitchen table. He surveyed the room. Skunk was not in front of the stove. Bowls, plates, a cutting board and cooking doodahs and gizmos littered the counter. Something oozed off a frying pan into the burner. No one was cleaning it up. Then an image of a small potato streaking across the kitchen blazed through Badger's mind. "Rocket potato, watch out!" Skunk had said. Badger glanced over his shoulder and saw the potato. Rocket potato was small, yellow and now claimed the corner. Badger decided he did not like the look of potatoes in corners, even rocket potatoes. Badger grabbed a muffin from the basket and was surprised to find it was the last muffin. How many muffins had he eaten? Badger took a bite and chewed. His chewing sounded loud. Where exactly was Skunk? Badger swallowed and listened, and that's when he heard it, a thumping, and the sound came from the 2nd floor. So we are going to find out what Skunk is up to next.